Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to show you how to put new fishing line on a baitcaster rod and reel. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and hit the notification button.
Alright everybody, so here is my very first baitcaster. I bought this yesterday at Cabela's. The rod and reel combo cost me 150 bucks. It's just a simple lose combo with a very basic rod and reel. We're going to show you today how to get line onto the spool itself. I actually did it last night and made a video. However, I did not like the quality of the video that came out. So I actually took all the line back off and threw it away. I know that's a waste, but I learned by visual and doing. So for me, it's going to give me that extra practice, and it's also going to give you better quality videos. Now, what we look for in these reels, if you can see that there, I'm trying to get some extra light here for you guys. There are some holes in the reel spool itself. You're going to want to put the fishing line through that spool, and it'll go through both sides, and then we're going to just tie two simple overhand knots to keep that from moving. The fishing line I'm using is just basic Berkley Trilene XT Extra Tough. It's a 17-pound test. There was 300 yards on this spool, and it's a low visibility green. Like I said, when I spooled this last night, I actually went out to my backyard and cast it a couple times, and it worked perfectly fine once I figured out the mechanics of how to set up a bait caster, which we'll do in a later video for you guys. But this reel is rated for, I believe, anywhere between 12 and 30 pound test, and we'll get right into it. So basically what I have set up here for you guys is the fishing line is in an old vise with a screwdriver. I'm doing this by myself, so it just makes it a little bit more simplistic for me to get the line to come off straight. The biggest tip I have for you is when you're pulling this off, make sure it's coming off from the top and not from the bottom or from the side. This way the line doesn't twist. Now I know this setup is very unique to me. You guys, you don't need to have a vise to do this. You don't have to put a vise and a screwdriver together. You could simply get a old box or some dowel rods into a box and have the same setup as this. So you don't need to have a vise or go out and buy a vise to get the same effect that you have here. I could have the box sitting on the workbench here with a dowel rod running through it and have the same effect. The only nice thing about this is the fact that the vise is bolted to the bench, so it's not going to move back and forth. Alright, so to start out, we're going to have the spool itself and the rod kind of parallel to each other, but once we have the line started, we want to have everything in line. So just for the purposes of simplicity, we have the rod and reel sitting on the workbench. We're going to take the line and go through the first rod guide here, right, like so. We're going to pull that through. And the main thing with the bait caster is to ensure that we go through the line guide here on the reel itself. If you miss this and you start spooling it up, it's not going to go well. You're going to have to take all the line back off. It's going to bird nest, have a bad time. So make sure you go through this eyelet here first. We just run right through here, like so, and then pull through. I'm going to pull enough that I can have a working end with the line. And the best thing that I've found so far in the whole 24 hours of doing this is to just kind of shoot for one of these holes, and I can actually see that it went through. I fought with this a lot yesterday, trying to get this to run through, and then what I can actually do is just rotate this along, and then I have this working end right here. So now I have enough that I can pull this out, and I take my two ends. I'm going to tighten this up just a little bit. And what I found so far, people were talking about doing arbor knots and stuff like that. I'm simply just doing one overhand knot and then doing a secondary overhand knot, right, like so. And then I'm making sure that said knot kind of goes into that hole there so that it keeps the indentation of the knot itself from messing with the line being spooled, if that makes sense to everybody. What we don't want to have is a big lump here with all this extra line and then have that be a problem while we're spooling this this line onto this reel. So I'm just going to tighten that down. I'm going to give it a bit of a yank here to make sure that it's not going to go anywhere, and we're good to go there. So now I will take just a pair of scissors and I'm going to cut this as close as I can to the knot. And there you have it. So now this is so that it's not going to go anywhere, and we'll start spooling this up here. The big thing you want to keep in mind here is to just keep tension on this as you're reeling. And the spool will do the rest of the work. You can already see that the line guide is doing the work. It is making sure that everything goes as it should. I'm doing this nice and slow. I am holding tension on this line so it doesn't get sloppy on me, and we're just going to slowly, until we are satisfied with how much we have on the spool, just slowly reel it in. Either that or until I run out of line. Like I said, I did have this spooled up last night and I just wasn't satisfied with the video quality, so I took all the line off and did it again just to have quality content for you guys. Now as you're spooling, you're going to want to watch the side of the reel here, or of the spool itself I should say. We don't want to go too high, because if we go too high you're going to cause issues with backlash or bird nesting, which again we'll do a video on the basics of a bait caster here in the future. So you don't want to go too high up on this. I did find that out last night. I went up too high and it did not feed right, so I had to take not a considerable amount of line off, not that it matters anyway, but I did have to take a decent amount of line off in order to get this to function, due to the fact that I had spooled it up too high. You can see there that it's coming off real nice and neat off of the spool in the vise, and I'm just letting it go through that first eyelet that we put it through, and I'm putting very light tension on this as I'm reeling in on the reel itself. So you can see here how far we stopped, giving that spool a little bit of extra room. You don't want to go too high. Again, I went up too high to the point where I was up almost on this rubber gasket here, or this rubber molding that the spool rests in, and that was no good. So just make sure that you're not going up too high. There you guys have it. It's spooled up. Everything's nice and neat. There's no lumps. Everything looks good. There's enough room on both sides of the spool that I don't think it's going to be a problem like I had yesterday. And like I said, this is my first bait caster combo that I've purchased. So I did go out and buy these practice plugs. They were like $7 for the 3 of them. And they are, you have a 3/8, a half, and a quarter, which is nice because depending on the weight of your lure, that is going to dictate the settings of this bait casting reel. So it's nice that I'll be able to use these different weights in order to fine tune and learn how to use this reel. Again, if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you guys subscribe to the channel, gave us a follow, like the video, leave a comment if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.